Let's go to Parliament now. Tonight, in a twist of events, the spokesperson of the 98 NPP MPs who are asking the president to sack the embattled finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has mounted a strong defense for the budget during the debate. Asante Achem MP, that's Andy Piakubi, was prepared to lead the NPP MPs to boycott the budget presentation and other business presented by Ken Ofori-Atta until a last-minute push from the party to get the MPs to attend to the budget presentation. But today, Andy Piakubi praised the measures in the budget during the ongoing debate in Parliament. Watch this.
Mr. Speaker, it is also for us to create the necessary partnerships with industry players who probably have the financial resources. We want to go into industry. So, Mr. Speaker, when we have taken advantage of the internal markets within the country and the markets as created outside the country, then we can see the import and effect of the 1D1F program. In my own constituency, and we were saying that we don't have any 1D1F. In my own constituency, Asante Achem, and in Agugo, to be specific, we have a factory that is processing plantain. Myself, I'm a plantain farmer, so I discharge plantain into the factory, and it is onwardly exported to Canada with collaboration with CIS-IRS, Council for Industrial and Scientific Research. We have generated a market in Canada, and our produce coming from Agugo is destined to go to the Canadian market. So if you don't have it in your constituency, it's just that you have not been able to identify the potential that your constituency has, and you have not taken advantage of the opportunities that the ministry presents. Mr. Speaker, within the various districts, we have second cycle institutions that are ready market for the produce that come from the one district, one factory. The dough that we produce in Agugu, we are serving the secondary schools in the area. The plantain that we plant in Agugu, we are serving the secondary schools. So the market is there. Under the free trade, African free trade regime, the whole of Africa is available to us. And even before the African free trade regime, we had the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme that also opened the whole of ECOWAS to produce coming from Ghana. And for which reason we have provided with the sub-regional market, the regional market, and the international market. Mr. Speaker, the free zones this year alone created 35 new enterprises. 35 new enterprises. And we are saying that the free zones program this year generated $1.3 billion in terms of exports.
Quite a spirited defense there of Ken Ofori-Atta's budget. Let's go to Zoom now and speak to Dr. Kwabena Safo-Kantanka. He's a fellow with Parliamentary Watch Group, Odikro. Doc, should we cut him some slack or begin to raise questions about his conviction?
Well, thank you very much, Ernest. Two things. Well, you know, human beings can change their minds about situations. But of course, the MP can also argue that defending the budget statement doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't want the minister to go.
Right.
It's like a messenger message situation. Do you consider the message, notwithstanding maybe the messenger having a tag, or do you want to throw away a good message because the one carrying the message has a certain tag? So we can argue around it and perhaps still think that, yes, the MP is defending the budget statement. The budget statement may contain very good things he thinks may help this country. And of course, if there's a new minister, if the minister leaves office tomorrow and there's a new minister appointed, that minister will work with this document, the budget statement that has been given to Parliament. So somebody may argue that, do you reject such a budget statement to the extent that if a new minister comes in, is he going to prepare another budget statement or something? So that is an argument.
And your response to that question will be what?
Well, I think it may sound well. It may be a very good argument. because I may find myself in the same situation. You know that if the budget statement is not approved in time, the government of Ghana may find it very difficult, starting from the 1st of January next year, to have the physical strength to run its policies. You understand that?
Right.
So the MP may say that, well, I'm going to give approval, but I still want the minister to go so that somebody takes over. And of course, they are still talking about that in terms of whether the minister has to leave or not. Some are defending the minister, some are still saying that the minister has to go. So yes, he led, as you call it, the rebel group. Of course, having rebel groups in parliament is not a new thing. In the UK parliament, they have a group of MPs called rebel MPs and all that. So it happens in parliament.
Right.
But as I said, we are looking at the messenger and the message. And I think that at this stage, the MP thinks that the message is good. Forget about the messenger.
Very well.
The messenger can be dealt with later on in the course of time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc. I think the point is well made, and I'm grateful that you could share your thoughts with us on this issue. Let's stay in Parliament, because the minority in Parliament is welcoming the reintroduction of road tolls in the 2023 budget. The government stopped the collection of road tolls in November 2021 after an announcement in the 2022 budget. But Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in the 2023 budget announced a return of road tolls as part of government revenue measures on selected roads. Debating the statement, Minority Spokesperson on Roads and Transport Governs Kwame Adoja, whilst welcoming the development, said government had been populist in cancelling the road tolls in the first place.
On page 40, paragraph 462, we welcome the decision by the road minister to bring back the road tolls. We take no pride in saying we told you so, Mr. Speaker. It was populist, it was unnecessary, we told you, and they were there shouting, oh, we are going to do it because we had e-levy. Today, we want to bring the road toll. But Mr. Speaker, some members of the party that belong to the other side had the courage to tell you that if you want a road toll, you should go and collect it yourself. Today, they have brought a law here to say they are bringing it back. Mr. Speaker, on principle, we supported it that it should remain that time. We are still supporting it that they should bring it back. But there will be no blank checks. If you bring the road toll back, all the accruals must go into road maintenance. Otherwise, we are not going to support you. That is why we say decap the road fund. So, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Temamoto Way, they said, we sat here and said time and again that what the minister was calling a contract between the Ghana government and Buta Angels is not a fit for purpose contract. You cannot sign a contract with a foreign company without coming to this house. Article 1781 and 5 doesn't allow you to do that. Mr. Speaker, we welcome the decision of the road minister to come back to the house with an appropriate package that to build the Accra Temamoto Way. When we look at that package and it's fit for purpose, Mr. Speaker, we would support that. Mr. Speaker, lastly, on the issue of indebtedness, Mr. Speaker, Ghanaian contractors, patriotic citizens are in serious problem. As we read this budget, there is no indication as to how we are going to pay the 12 billion or so that we owe Ghanaian contractors. Some of them are in this room, some of them are relatives, some of them are citizens of this country, some of them have sold their houses, they have collateralized everything. Mr. Speaker, we must find a way of helping the government to pay these contractors. And the last.
And guess what has been happening in Parliament? Both sides have been creative in advancing their arguments. Deputy Ranking Member on the Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, likened Vice President Bawumia to Manchester United captain Harry Maguire, who is scoring own goals and messing up the economy.
But Mr. Speaker, I am not surprised. If you are a fan of football, and I'm happy to see you the other day jubilating when Ghana won. But there was a player in the United Kingdom, in England, called Maguire, who was playing for Manchester United. Harry Maguire. He's a defender. He was tackling everybody and throwing his bodies everywhere, that he was seen as the best defender in the world. Manchester United went and bought him. He became the biggest threat at the center of Manchester United's defense, tackling Manchester players and giving assist to opponents. Mr. Speaker, When even the opponents fail to score, Maguire will score for them. Mr. Speaker, you remember in this country we also had an economic Maguire. This economic Maguire went to Malata market and were clapping, saying that this man is the best in managing foreign currency. The same economic Maguire was roaming at Central University, delivering lectures on how to restore the value of the cedi. Mr. Speaker, when we gave this Maguire the opportunity to be at the center of our defense, he became the risk of our own goal. Dr. Momia, our economic Maguire, is now tackling all the fundamentals of our economy and destroying all of them. When he said that he was the best in calculating inflation, he moved us to 40.4. When he said that he was the best in managing depreciation, that was 9% at the Mahama, he moved it to 54%. Mr. Speaker, this man was crying everywhere that businesses are collapsing because of interest rate. Today, Koku Mensa Enterprise will have to borrow above the 36% government is borrowing, somewhere around 45 to 50%. Mr. Speaker, the biggest fear now is that we may be paying appearance fee for this Maguire to now score downgrade against Ghana.
And it doesn't get any lighter in Parliament. But look, the NPP side will not let this slide. Here's a response from the MP for Sisri Akontobra, Alex Tete, and he likened former President Mahama to Lukaku.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I listened carefully to the debates or the speech made by Honorable Adongo on a Maguire that he nominated to the Vice President. Mr. Speaker, we all know that the whole world is facing with the economic crisis, and it is better for us to maintain Maguire, that we will be able to have his confidence back rather than to bring a striker like Romelu Lukaku, which Chelsea sold to Inter Milan, and later have a confidence that Lukaku can able to actually help them in their striking force, not knowing that Lukaku is the worst striker in the whole world. And we are not ready to bring such type of striker into the country again. We are here, Mr. Speaker, as a nation where the striker that the opponents are talking about the former president, is not able to pay the teachers that they actually are hired for them to talk for 24 months, but only 3 months have been paid. This debt was created by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That's normally called legacy debt. Mr. Speaker, we are in this country when the so-called striker is not able to provide 24 hours electricity to the Ghanaians. Now the Maguire that cannot defend the Manchester is able to provide this particular land to light for the Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, in this country, Article 36 plus 2C actually provided how the distribution of infrastructure should be made in this country. And I can challenge both sides of the House, or the members of Parliament from both sides of the House, that since Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, through the able Minister of Roads and Highways, assumed office, has developed unprecedented roads construction in this country.
And let's stay with the Ghanaian economy. The economy still looks very gloomy, with Moody's downgrade to further junk status and change the outlook to stable. The ratings agency downgrade warns investors that the private creditors will likely incur substantial losses in the restructuring of both local and foreign currency debts planned by the government for the 2023 budget statement. The move is necessary to improve budget sustainability. And joining me in the studio is our data analyst with our research desk, Isaac Ofieje. He's been looking more into that latest report by Moody's. Isaac, walk us through the figures and the implications as far as this latest junk status, has for us.
In fact, if you look at this junk status, a CAAA2 has actually been moved downwards into a more terrible, territory of a CA. Now, if it's a CA, if you look at the, Moody's, their rating scale, and you look at from A to C, then you are actually looking at these three ratings being the last three, and Ghana, we are the last but one. And if you are at CA, what does it simply mean? It simply means that it's either you are in default or default is actually imminent. And that's what Moody is actually placing on our sovereign bonds. Now, if you look at the ratings for this year, we've had about 7 reviews in less than 11 months, and Moody's has actually moved our rating from, it started with a CAAA1 as of February 4, 2022, then move it, downwards to, a CAAA2 in September. Now we have a CA, which simply means that your bonds are not really doing well. You're actually in junk status. This is actually the first time, it's unprecedented that we've seen such a number of reviews in less than 11 months. But why are they actually giving us this status or outlook? They cited a number of reasons, and actually debt restructuring, which we are not sure the form that it would take. Moody's actually went heavy on that and saying that government mentioning debt restructuring in its 2023 budget is actually one of the reasons why they actually given us a CA outlook. But if you look at private sector holding government bonds, they actually cited the private sector and saying that they will suffer heavy losses if we are supposed to do a debt restructuring. Just look at this, Edes. As of 2021, this is the number of people or entities or institutions holding government bonds. So if you look at the domestic investors, they hold about 152.4 billion Ghana cedis, which is about 80% of our entire securities. Then you have the foreign investors holding about 16%. If you look at the domestic sector, banking sector holds about 91 billion Ghana cedis. It's about 52.2%. Non-banking sector, about 61.4 billion. So if there's definitely going to be a haircut, look at this huge amount that banking sector and non-banking sector have with government at the moment.
That is why the central bank said it was monitoring the banks very closely and to give them the support that they need in case of any emergency.
Absolutely, because if anything should happen, this sum is too huge for the banking sector to actually look.
And the effect on the ordinary person will be what?
Yeah.
That the cost of borrowing will be very expensive.
Exactly. We've actually seen it going up again. We've seen the monetary policy rate actually going to a historic high of 27%. 27%, that's the rate at which the commercial banks will be getting loans from the central bank. They'll pass it on to investors who are actually saying that government's already, crowding out the private sector by borrowing heavily from the domestic market.
Kofi, thank you very much. And that's our data analyst there, Isaac Ofori-Atta, giving us some more detail about the latest Moody's rating for the Ghanaian economy. Let's do some more stories here on Joy News Prime. The former president, John Dramani Mahama, is calling on leaders from all political parties, the clergy, CSOs, and traditional authorities to rise up, work together, and help the current administration. According to him, although the country is in crisis, various leaders who are not in power should not look on for Ghanaians to suffer. He made this call when the new leadership of the Assemblies of God paid a courtesy call on him.
Today we're going through difficult times, and I'm sure that if the president enjoyed good counsel from his church like I have, we probably would not be where we are. Because you would have known the reality on the ground and been able to determine that the direction in which we're going is not really the best. But like I said, unfortunately we are where we are. And so I think that not only the church, but all of us in leadership, must contribute our opinions and advice and suggestions to see how this government can begin to turn things around. Because like I said, in WA, all the political parties are in competition for leadership. And so you cannot be happy that one party's administration is going through economic difficulty and you stand and gloat over it. We must contribute what we can to ensure that they turn it around, because if you sit and laugh and you think that you're happy with what's going on, you may not win power in 2025 to have a country to govern. And so better to work together and turn things around, especially for the ordinary people of this country. The hardship is real. And when you go to the grassroots, you find that people really have a difficulty. And I'll say especially in the health area, I mean, the national health insurance is not working very well. And people go to a hospital and they're asked to pay for it. And they just don't have the money. And so we just say that we must all put our shoulders to the wheel, the churches, political leaders, the civil society organizations, traditional rulers, and everybody, so that we can turn things around and make life better for the majority of our people.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, and Asmini. We're taking a break. When we return, we have more stories for you. Please stay.